Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of the Football Baron podcast as we go into Matchday 31 in the Bundesliga. Our topics for today will be, of course, the Kai Havertz and Timo Werner transfer saga that's going on between the Bundesliga and the Premier League, as well as the upcoming matches for Matchday 31 from Leipzig to Bayern and, of course, Borussia Dortmund. So our first topic for the day is, of course, Kai Havertz and Timo Werner with the transfer saga. Of course, Timo Werner, it's looking most likely that he's going to be moving to Chelsea. I mean, to me, personally, I was pretty surprised by the fact that he's going to Chelsea. I mean, it did get sprung up that Frank Lampard had, pushed it and managed to get ahead of Liverpool. But it also seems like Liverpool didn't want to shed that much money on Timo Werner. And I really do think Timo Werner would have been a good fit. I really do. With Jurgen Klopp as manager of Liverpool and Timo Werner, being a striker, I think it would be a good option. But I think Liverpool will still definitely be looking for another striker, and it might definitely be in the Bundesliga. We'll go into that later, specifically a Wolfsburg striker. And since we already know pretty much that Timo Werner will most likely be going to Chelsea, Kai Havertz, on the other hand, has about 4 clubs that will potentially be looking to take him. For example, Chelsea, Bayern, Liverpool, and Manchester United, 3 of those English clubs. And he did state that he wants a team that will win trophies. And it's not really certain because earlier in the day they were saying, earlier weeks ago, they were saying that Bayern Munich will get it. Bayern Munich was saying that they're ahead in contract talks. And then it doesn't seem to be materializing, or there's no more news of it. And the deal might still go through, who knows. But Chelsea is looking to speed up as well, and Manchester United recently just said that they will look to build the team around him, and maybe he wants that. Liverpool, on the other hand, I mean, there's little rumors, but not that much talk, if I'm gonna be honest. I mean, the fans from Liverpool want to get Kai Havertz, but it's not looking likely, if I'm to be honest. But it would be a good decision because he did state he wants to be part of a team that wins trophies, and he wants to focus on individual trophies afterwards. He wants to get the Champions League. He wants to win World Cups and other major titles. But if I'm going to be honest, my prediction is it actually will be either Chelsea or Manchester United. I have a feeling. I think it could be Chelsea or Manchester United. But then again, he did say, I want to win, trophies and titles. And Chelsea and Manchester United, I haven't been looking the strongest in recent times. Liverpool and Bayern are still open, and Bayern is, of course, close to home. And Liverpool is, of course, destined to win the Premier League title this season. But also, I think it's important to praise Kai Havertz. I mean, he's being praised enough with such prestigious clubs, speculating about him joining their teams, of course. But I think it's really amazing, and we should praise Havertz for his return to form because earlier this season in the Bundesliga, the earlier half, he really did not perform well at all. But now he's scoring goals and providing assists so often. It's amazing. It's amazing what he's doing right now. And earlier, when he was doing pretty badly, I did think that maybe he might not actually get a transfer because of the poor form. But the way he was keeping it up, the poor form throughout, and I do feel bad for him. I mean, he had a crazy amount of pressure because last season he was doing amazing for Leverkusen, scoring so much, and he was 20 or 19, and that's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive how he's just recovered, and I do think that's important to highlight, and I think he's here to stay. All right, it's time to move on to some of the upcoming matches for Matchday 31 of the Bundesliga. Of course, this is the only league, and I know many of you will be, watching the Bundesliga with the Premier League not coming up until next Wednesday, and so on. But the opening match will, of course, be on Friday against with the two teams, Hoffenheim and RB Leipzig, facing each other. And, of course, Nagelsmann will be facing his whole team that he managed, and he did very impressively. Yeah, what he did at Hoffenheim was impressive. And, of course, that landed him the RB Leipzig job, and Leipzig definitely needs to get a win because they have not been looking that strong and they kind of let go later in the season and just need to go back into full gear. But then again, there's only 4 matches left, and I don't see them winning the title, and it's quite clear that Bayern will be winning the title unless Bayern just completely drops the ball and does terribly in the last couple of matches in the season. But then again, RB Leipzig is most likely going to win against Hoffenheim, and if they don't, then that is a poor performance on their behalf. But definitely RB Leipzig will be facing some potential problems later on in the next season, with Timo Werner most likely leaving, with his release clause triggered by Chelsea, and him most likely moving to Chelsea. And Werner should have moved probably a little bit, like a season ago maybe. But Leipzig could potentially not be as strong as they are in this current season. Without Werner, I don't see them scoring as many goals and getting enough wins and challenging Bayern again, unless they bring someone from their academy, because RB Leipzig, as you guys know, is primarily under Red Bull, or entirely under Red Bull, and Red Bull has so many teams, and their scouting is amazing. Unless they bring in some other talents into the next season, then I don't see them doing as well in the next season. The following matches, of course, will be Fortuna versus Borussia Dortmund away, and it should be a win for Dortmund. It really should. Dusseldorf is a strong side, especially when it comes to like home field advantage, but then again, without fans, that advantage isn't as clear. But if Dortmund did not win this, then I really do think that they might have to consider changing managers. Because Lucien Favre, I feel like 3 years, I think it's been now, and he's going to lose some key players like Jadon Sancho in the next transfer window, with him most likely going to England or La Liga or whichever big clubs are after him. And I just don't see him keep pushing and like challenging Bayern. And Dortmund should have challenged him better. I mean, Leipzig did a better job of challenging Bayern for the title earlier in the season, which they dropped it. But Dortmund really, I don't know, they just not have been, I feel, up to expectations. They definitely need more central defenders, that's for sure. They're going to need new player maybe to replace Sancho. I've heard that they're going to use Gio Reyna, the American star. But, I mean, he's like 17 or 18. I really don't see him as a major force that's going to be helping Dortmund win these titles and win these games. But I don't know. I don't think he would fill the void that Sancho will most likely leave when he leaves Dortmund. But definitely there's some worries around Dortmund and whether Lucien Favre can still even win a title for Dortmund. Well, with Dortmund most likely ideally winning that game, we're going to move on to Bayern versus Gladbach. Now, this is probably the most important match in the Matchday 31 fixture because, of course, Bayern is ahead, and Gladbach are looking to maintain their 4th place and hold off Leverkusen from taking their Champions League qualification, potentially. And Bayern is most likely going to win, from the looks of it, of course, because Bayern has been extremely dominant, insanely dominant under Hansi Flick in the second half, after Niko Kovac was removed as manager. And definitely, I think that Bayern should win, although they have some major issues that could prove to be a problem and could see them drawing or losing the game, with Lewandowski and Muller missing the game due to suspensions. And Alassane Plea on Gladbach's side will be missing because of the red card he received during the Gladbach versus Freiburg game. And I just need to highlight again Hansi Flick, what he's done for Bayern. Absolutely amazing what he's been doing for Bayern, and just unlocking older players and the newer players. Alphonse Davies doing amazingly well. defending is getting better, extremely fast on the ball, and he comes back and helps to neutralize the attacking threat. As well as, of course, Thomas Muller, who has just broke Kevin De Bruyne's assist record when he was in Wolfsburg. And he's broken it by having 20 assists so far this season. Maybe he's definitely going to have more assists, but definitely impressive on his part. However, as I said before, him and Lewandowski will not be playing in the Gladbach game, but it's definitely, again, praise needs to be given to Hansi Flick and what he's been doing. And I really do think that what he's showing, and I mean earlier when he was chosen as the caretaker manager, many of the Bayern players were praising him. He really got the support of the players, and I think it's impressive, again, what he's doing after the poor start in the first half of the season. And, of course, Gladbach, on the other end, they lost against Freiburg, and they didn't get any points in that game. And that meant that Leverkusen, who were able to catch up and are now tied equally on points, just goal difference separating the two. And if Gladbach loses or draws and Leverkusen wins, Leverkusen will take the fourth place in the Bundesliga. And if they can maintain it, then they will secure Champions League football. And, of course, Gladbach will not be able to. And speaking of how I was praising Hansi Flick as the manager of Bayern, Marco Rose, who has taken over first season at Gladbach, he's been doing an impressive job as well with the players he has, and I really do think that they should be praised as well. But then again, Gladbach without Playa as an attacking option and a couple of injured players, it does not look too well for them. Now, another key fixture is not the big dogs in the league, but it's going to be one of the relegation teams. Paderborn and Werder Bremen, who are the bottom two. And, it's pretty clear that Paderborn aren't going to be staying in the league. They're going to be relegated right after they've been promoted into the Bundesliga. But I think it should be an interesting game. Really should. Usually these relegation battle games are fierce and intense, usually. But I think it's a match to look out for, and if you've got the time, I think it would be a good game to watch and see how these teams fight. And Werder Bremen definitely needs those 3 points. Werder Bremen are not in as big as a ditch as Paderborn are, and they definitely can, if they put on the next 4 matches, a real strong set of performances and good wins, then they can definitely stay in the league. But just like Paderborn, their chances are dim, and Fortuna is right above them, but they're facing Borussia Dortmund, and of course, Werder Bremen are just gonna have to do their best and try to get a win here, and hopefully try to claw their way out of the relegation zone and try to stay in the league. And, of course, the next game that will be important, of course, would be Schalke versus Leverkusen. Now, this game depends entirely on... its importance depends on Gladbach's performance. If Gladbach loses, then Gladbach will definitely be looking at this game, Gladbach supporters, because if Leverkusen draws or gets a win, if Gladbach loses to Bayern, then Leverkusen will, as I said before, secure the 4th place spot, and that's definitely the team wants to secure that Champions League football. Schalke is still in rebuild mode right now, and they're trying to rebuild their team and go back to the top tier level of football they were, but Schalke is kind of going to be facing a strong and pretty informed Leverkusen team with their talented midfielder Kai Havertz in sparkling form, and it's something that definitely should be an important game. All right, moving into some other smaller topics. Leverkusen into the DFB Pokal final, the German Cup final, and it's definitely going to be an interesting match because, this is Kai Havertz's team. He's the lead man, not captain, but like the lead front man, and he's an amazing player. And who's, as I said in the earlier part of the podcast, he will most likely be leaving for an English club or Bayern. And I think the future really could be bright for him. But I do hope, I'm not even a Leverkusen fan, but I hope for Kai Havertz that hopefully he'll be able to play for the final, because he wasn't able to play in the semifinal because of an injury. But if he is able to play, I'm going to be so happy for him, and even more happier for him if he wins. I do hope that he wins something, just anything, before he leaves Bayer Leverkusen. Just a sending off gift to the club that basically gave him the chance to play football, help him grow his talent, and potentially help him to a bright future career that Havertz definitely has the potential for. His ceiling is very high, and I really do, that Leverkusen wins. Now here's a little stat that I'm going to tell you guys, and a few of you may have already known, but Vladimir Darida breaking the Bundesliga distance covered twice, 2 matches in a row. In a 2-0 win over Augsburg, Hertha's Vladimir Darida, a Czech midfielder, he ran a total of 14.3 kilometers or 8.9 miles, and for the first match day. And then the next week later, the next match day, he ran a total of 14.7 kilometers or 9.1 miles. I mean, that's just incredible. I hope he breaks the record again, but I mean, the man's got to be tired. But if he breaks it in a third time in a row, I think that's something you just have to salute. The man's got determination, and he's a hardworking dude, and really is impressive what he's doing. And I think everyone should root for him, and root for him to break the record, 3rd match in a row. Just keep breaking the record and keep putting out those performances. But I mean, good for him, man. Good for him, and we'll see what he does this next match. All right, let's moving on to another transfer story, but in the Premier League to the Bundesliga instead of what we're constantly seeing from Bundesliga to the Premier League, with Leory Sane of Manchester City potentially moving to Bayern Munich. And there are just a couple of reports right now that they are trying to come to a deal, but it's not working out because Bayern is willing to offer 40 million euros for Leory Sane. But then Manchester City is saying that it should be 70 million at least for the German winger. And Bayern could use the winger. Hansi Flick has even stated that he and his team could use a extra winger. But we're just gonna have to wait it out and see if the Schalke product, the Schalke youth product, will come back to Germany. All right, now we're going to move on to my topic, my zone. So I'm a SC Freiburg fan, and this entire topic or section of the podcast is going to be about SC Freiburg, and we're going to be talking about the match that is coming up, Wolfsburg versus SC Freiburg, and it should be a good game. It should be a good game. I think the team is back where we were. Freiburg, we were on a really poor run after the break. And we broke that poor run with giving a defeat to Gladbach. As I said earlier, we kind of started getting the ball rolling after Playa got a red card for a tackle when he already had a yellow card in the first half, and now he's suspended for the Bayern game. But it was a good game, and I think Wolfsburg will definitely be a tough opponent. I really do. I think that they're the kind of team that can catch us off guard and just give us another defeat and or potentially a draw. But I'm hoping that we put in a good performance. And speaking of Wolfsburg, I think someone to keep an eye out is still Wout Weghorst. I mean, the Dutch forward, he's incredible. Last season he was incredible. This season, not as amazing performance, but he's still a good forward. And I heard from him that I didn't hear from him personally, but I keep hearing that he wants to move to England. Like, he wants to go to an English club, specifically Liverpool. And Liverpool could actually use him, but I don't know if it'll suit Jurgen Klopp's style, but definitely could be a useful striker. And he clearly wants to move to Liverpool, so he would probably be all ears for a transfer. But the price for him might not be worth it. I mean, he's got a pretty good market value, and Wolfsburg definitely need him, so they're going to be asking for a good amount. But despite that, for the game specifically between Wolfsburg and Freiburg, I do hope that we expect more from some of our forwards like Luka Waldschmidt. I mean, to be fair, he did have a major injury that sidelined him, and right when he was in a good form, and I hope he gets back into that groove because he was looking very good and very promising. My personal favorite player, Christian Gunter, I hope he keeps pulling out those performances. Been a really good captain this season. Been really good on the field. Really good form pretty much all season. One of the top left backs in the league for sure. And well, I think that should wrap up the podcast. That's just a quick one to give to everyone. And I hope you all, whoever you guys are supporting, do well, except if you're a Wolfsburg supporter. I hope this match day that's coming up, I hope you do lose because I want my team to get those 3 points. But then again, I appreciate you all listening. If you ever want to contact us, you can contact us the best by going to our YouTube channel, The Football Baron, and you should be able to see this podcast on YouTube format if you're listening to us on Apple Podcast or any other podcasting site. But then again, when you do reach that YouTube channel, you can type in the comments below and tell us anything you like, any feedback or any questions or any simple comments. We'd love to hear it. And you may also see other content from the Football Baron on our website, footballbaron.com. Footballbaron.com. And I hope you all have a good day and enjoy the German football that's coming up this match day. Matchday 31.